All right, good morning, everyone. We're live. You got the Aired Out podcast from the ASB Financial Studios, Fly on the Wall Productions, Main Street, Barrie, Vermont. Good day. Final day of the month. Tom Lozon is with us. Of course, Raylene sitting right next to him. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. Back.
Yeah.
How are you?
Very, very good. Raylene posted last night that she was so proud of the Veterans Council, not only for all their service, but also you, Tom, for your motion and the council's unanimous yes last night. What happened? Tell us about it.
Ron Tallman came in.
Yeah, right.
During my first period of service to the city, I would call Ron frequently. He would call me frequently. Sometimes those calls were very late in the evening or very early in the morning when a veteran was in crisis. Might be, the result of a law enforcement intervention, and, clearly there was a veteran in crisis. And Ron was just the go-to guy. I just have so much admiration for Ron. He is someone who served our country, came back from a very serious illness, likely contracted during his service to our country in Vietnam, and I just have so much respect and admiration for Ron. And so when Ron and the Veterans Council, so to back up a little bit, you remember the whole flag blow up, the first one.
Yeah.
There's been like the sequel, the sequel,
Well, I was
the
just
sequel,
gonna say,
and the
which-
sequel.
Which one?
Yeah. So, the council had made a motion, appropriately, it was my motion, that we would fly the large flag over Main Street on Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Veterans Day. Subsequently, because we really wanted to be done with just the whole flag discussion, it got a little distracting. Like, who's a bigger patriot? And I don't think you define that by your willingness to fly, a bigger flag.
Sure.
So it got real personal. It still has. I made a remark about, an ad that was posted directed at Councillor Booten. I thought that, still do, think that was tremendously ill-advised and unfair, quite frankly. But
And you apologized to him on behalf of...
Well, I didn't. I said I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah.
Because Michael's a big teddy bear. I've always referred to Michael as the conscience of the council. Michael certainly has his political views. But at the end of the day, Michael has this unique ability to rise above that and just be kind, and be gentle. And that's just the kind of person he is. I love Michael's apology tours because Michael will feel like he said a harsh word towards someone, which is not a harsh word at all. He's just stating his opinion. And then the next day, he literally goes on this apology tour where he walks from office to office in the city and apologizes to anyone he may have offended.
Yes, I know.
So, but besides all that, so the Veterans Council got together, and the large flag that we fly over Main Street had gotten a little tattered, a little dingy. And in the opinion of the Veterans Council, they said, you really shouldn't even be flying that flag. It's gotten to the point where it's just dingy and dirty, and they thought not befitting. So they got together and purchased a new flag for the city. And they came in and asked us to alter our policy once again because, as you know, on the 25th anniversary of 9/11, I certainly supported, and not only supported, but made arrangements for the flag to fly on a lift over City Hall Park, and I supported that effort for a variety of reasons. But then as we made that additional motion regarding when the council would fly the flag, I didn't include 9/11 in that because while I absolutely believe it's a day of remembrance and reflection, I didn't think that particular day, and I apologize to anyone who may have been directly affected by 9/11 because I'm sure they feel differently. But I simply felt it didn't.
Did you get some heat for that, Tom?
No, because I think people heard my message, which is, it is a day of remembrance. It is a day of reflection. It is an important day in our history. I just didn't think it rose to the level of those other occasions. And like I said, I realized someone who might have been directly affected may feel very differently.
Sure.
That's simply my opinion. So the Veterans Council came in last night and asked that we alter the flag policy once again and fly the flag over, on 9/11. And, I can't say no, and I will never say no to Ron Tallman. Because when Ron Tallman asks the city council to do something, when I say Ron Tallman, I'm including the whole Veterans Council.
Chuck Barney too.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many who do great work. But like I told them last night, look, I admire all of you, but you really got a ways to go. Ron Tallman set the bar, and he's kind of up here, and the rest of us are somewhere down here. We're working hard every day, and the Veterans Council works hard every day, and I suspect they'll catch up someday. But none of us are there. No, none of us can hit that bar that Ron Tallman has set. So, like I told Ron, because you're asking, I'm going to say yes, even though a year ago I said no. To future flyings of the flag on 9/11. So, and we've also got a great remembrance ceremony that's going on down at the fire station.
Yeah.
And down at the public safety building. So, yeah, it was a great moment, and it's one of those moments that reminds me how fortunate I am to live here, because there are so many people every day, and even you and Raylene. I mean, every day you try to do something to raise our community up on some level.
Sure.
And I'm grateful for that.
I thought it was nice to see and know also that it was not a part of the agenda, and they presented the flag to the city as a gift, and when it was asked quickly, the motions were made, and the council agreed to add it to the memorial service that the fire department was requesting, so that they could approve it all in one.
Yeah.
And so it just showed that where some feel there's been such a divide, you guys quickly work together, and that was awesome to see last night.
Yep.
There's not as much divide on the council as one,
Right.
as some folks would love to have you believe.
Sure.
At the end of the day, I think all of the members of the council understand the importance of working together.
And bring a value.
Yeah, I mean, we're challenged right now, as is every community.
Sure.
And when there's as I look back, and I sound like the old guy all the time because I reminisce a lot, but I'm a huge student of history. I've always loved history, and not just local history, but American history and Vermont history, because I always study those moments when the country or the city or the state moved forward. And what they all have in common is an absence of friction. Everyone pulling in the same direction. And when you don't have that friction on the rails, when everyone is truly pulling together, you can do some great things.
Yeah.
But it just takes a little bit of friction, a little bit of distraction to knock you off your game. And all of a sudden, and life is about opportunities.
I think it was. I think that it was Councilor Stockwell last night that said something to the effect of, we're all not supposed to agree on everything, but it's about whether or not we can engage in a conversation that ultimately, in the end, is constructive.
Right. And if you don't win your battle, don't be an obstructionist and lose the war.
Sure.
You lost that one. Pick up and look forward.
There's gonna
look
be
forward.
more.
Yeah, and pivot quickly. There's always challenges, and the one thing that I've always said, and even when I served the first time and served so long on the Mayor's Coalition, we were a very, very diverse group. We had, Murrow Weinberger and John Haller and Chris Loris, and there were so many people on that group, and there's not very many mayors in Vermont. And when we would show up at the State House, all of us looking to advance an issue, being mayor in most communities, being mayor in a buck will get you a cup of coffee.
Sure.
But it was funny because when all of a sudden there was a buzz throughout the State House that all of the mayors are here. and they want to talk to the legislature, and they want to talk to a committee. And we got things done. And what we realized, we made it sort of a rule of the Mayor's Coalition that unless we got a supermajority of the mayors wanting to talk about an issue, we didn't talk about an issue. Because we realized quickly that we had a lot in common. Public safety issues, drug challenges. We had so much in common. We had so many problems in common that we had to solve that we would never run out of those problems. And we didn't need to waste our time on issues where half agreed and half disagreed.
Sure.
And that's how we got things done. We recognize that we're gonna disagree on issues,
Right.
but
And
let's
there's
concentrate
also-
on the areas we agree on.
And we also have to not only prioritize, but then also reprioritize
Yeah.
midstream.
Yeah.
And that's where things can get murky.
It's a big, Barry's a small city, but Barry's a big city, and things happen quickly and things happen often, and you have to be able to pivot quickly and to refocus. People ask me a lot about priorities, and yeah, you always have priorities, but you've got to demonstrate the ability to sort of set those aside momentarily and deal with a crisis.
You spoke up last night, Tom, and Raylene, jump in anytime, please. Don't just cut me off. But you
Cut him off now.
you jumped in last night and said with regard to something, we just simply cannot afford $30 million.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Oh, sure. That
was a huge presentation last night.
It was a great presentation. They have the architect, the site engineer, and Bill Ahern have done some really good work. And the work centers around, an issue that has been around for decades, and that is the condition of our public works garage and, water and sewer facilities. And they're simply not adequate. We know that something needs to be done. We've known that something needs to be done for decades. And so they programmed what a new public works facility might look like. Roughly 84,000 square feet, I believe 3 times the size of our current facility, on 6 acres of land, again, roughly double the size of our current acreage. And in terms of the programming, couldn't argue with their assessment of the need, couldn't argue with their programming. But at the end of the day, as I started doing the math and they're giving their presentation, and I was using $300 a square foot for construction costs, even though right now our pro forma number is $450 a square foot. So believe it or so, think about that. A 2,000 square foot house now in these times with inflation and labor challenges, a 2,000 square foot is averaging, anywhere from $700,000 to $900,000. It's pretty incredible. So the question I asked after they were, first of all, I verified. I asked them about my, back of the napkin calculations, and I said, this looks like about a $30 million project to me. Their response was, it's north of $30 million.
Yeah, I heard that.
It's a little bit more. So maybe, 35, which prompted me to ask the clerk, and I've never asked this question in all my years of service, what is our bonding capacity? I never had to worry about, because when we bond, we're bonding for a $2 or $3 million project. And I was going, sir, before we got on the air here, we were talking a little bit about this, and I said, I can't remember. I think the school was 8. Okay. Maybe I'm really wrong. I'm thinking it was $8 million. Now, keep in mind, when I was chair of the school board a jillion years ago, that was 25, 24 years ago, all of 20 years ago. So I'm thinking that bond was maybe public safety building. And again, I'm pulling numbers out of my rear end here.
Sure.
5, 6, something like that. And that was, I don't know, how long ago was that? 15 years ago? But I'm not aware that if you look at our property tax rate, if you look at our ability to raise revenue, if you look at our grand list, I'm not aware that it's grown. It's absolutely grown over the past 20 to 25 years. but I don't think it's grown to the magnitude where we could bond for a $35 million project. And that doesn't count, it's an 84,000 square foot building, all of 3 times the size of our current facility. So it's going to cost more operationally. There's certainly going to be some efficiencies. There's no doubt about that. But we haven't drilled down deep enough to the numbers to understand whether the efficiencies, the energy efficient, so you got a building 3 times bigger, but it's absolutely, so let's say it's
Sure.
half again, it's doubly efficient. It costs half per square foot to heat. It's still a net increase in cost.
They said that they weren't, obviously, a lot of time and effort has gone into this over the course of the whole summer. But they said that they weren't overly thrilled with any of their site ideas.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, I think we've got to get a little more creative with regard to site selection. They did not they looked at parcels that were give or take 6 acres. They didn't look at parcels that might be 20 acres where the city could purchase it, take the 6, or I'd probably be a proponent of allowing for expansion and taking maybe 8 and then reselling the other 12. So, there's some possibilities that they haven't looked at. They were, I love presentations like that because they were very forthright and they were very welcoming of constructive comments. They understood that, this is the first part of a journey. And, my prediction is going to be that we're going to have to phase this. I understand there are some inefficiencies with phasing, but, for me, it just boils down to cost and what is our bonding capacity? Because literally when you use up your bonding capacity, first of all, if you use 100% of your bonding capacity, you're likely going to have a more expensive bond because, like your own personal borrowing capacity, if you went to the bank and said, well, how much money can you lend me? And the bank said, well, on your signature, we can loan you $50,000. Well, I want it all.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Right, when you can only afford
the
30.
bank's likely going to crank your interest rate a little bit because all of a sudden, you're bonding to, or you're borrowing, which is all bonding is, you're borrowing to 100% of your ability to pay. And that obviously presents a higher risk and is likely going to reflect in a higher bond rate.
Sure.
So, so great presentation, good discussion. I'm anxious. Bill Ahern does some great work here in the city, and we're fortunate. We were very fortunate to find him, and we're fortunate to have him. And I want to continue having that discussion. But you've always got to balance that. What is your ability to pay? If you think about remodeling your home, what's the first question the contractor asks you?
Sure.
Actually maybe the second.
Budget,
What do you want and what is your budget?
Sure.
And then they sort of bring you back to reality saying, okay, I get what you want,
Sure.
but there's no way we're doing it for this kind of money. We're going to have to value engineer this a little bit.
So where do we go now? Do we go back to the drawing board?
No. We take the good work that they've done and we build on it. I mean, they've identified the needs. We need to prioritize those needs. The needs centered, obviously, safety needs to be a priority. Consideration for our employees and their working environment needs to be a priority. And obviously, cost needs to be a priority.
Okay.
So it's not going to be an easy discussion, but it's a discussion we've had before. We had that discussion with our Main Street.
Yeah.
When we talked about what we could afford, there were a lot more amenities that we could have chosen to place on our Main Street. But we had to pick and choose. We couldn't have a bike rack, at every intersection. We had to pick and choose a little bit. In terms of the quality of the streetlights, we ended up going with a medium quality streetlight. Believe me, we could have spent triple. And streetlights are not cheap.
No,
they're really not. And as I recall looking at the plans for Main Street and looking at some of the cut sheets on some of the lighting, and having the discussion with the architect that we can't afford that.
Yeah.
We can't afford that match. So we're going to have to find a street light that obviously produces the number of lumens that light the street effectively and make pedestrian travel safe and secure.
Sure.
But we're not going to have bronze light posts in the city of Barre. We can't afford that.
Yeah.
So that's much the discussion that we need to have it out.
And there's still time to build on that too. There's
Of course
all
there
kinds
is.
of changes.
You're permitting right now permitting is tough, and I'm not so sure that our interests won't be well served by a bit of a protracted process, because right now building costs are very high. You know, we're about to see the Labor Day panic. With regard to building, Labor Day panic is whenever Labor Day hits and all of a sudden people realize that winter is coming, all of a sudden all of the contractors, all of the builders, all of the developers, we all go into a panic because we realize that we're running out of time. We got to get our projects done. So, so I see, in you know, looking forward, I see the economy slowing. We certainly see the housing market slowing, which is going to translate into building costs. You know, supply and demand. Building costs are, in my opinion, going to, you know, there's going to be a reduction in the per square foot cost of building.
Boy, lenders are competing so hard for your business right now.
Yeah,
refinance.
Yeah, but at double the rate. You know, rates were sub 3%. They're if they're not 6 at most institutions, they're damn close. They're 5.875 or something like that. Sure. So, you know, think about, again, going back to our challenges. So think about that as we're trying to attract a young couple, and they've been sort of sitting on the fence for the last 6 months or 8 months, thinking, should I move to Vermont or not?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that $300,000 or $400,000 home that was going to cost them $3,000 in a mortgage payment is now $4,500.
Yeah.
It's So I get that I'm hoping the Fed. I'm hoping the Fed is a little more cautious, a little more thoughtful with raising interest rates, because I think it's a big economy. You don't stop it on a dime. You stop it in 100 yards. So I think the Fed had to raise interest rates. It was the only tool that they have really to to curb inflation.
Yeah.
But I hope they sort of take a break for a little bit and really drill down into the data and see if it's having the desired effect. I think it is.
We all hope so too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
It's brutal, and especially for first time home buyers or folks who need to relocate because of a job. And it affects everyone.
Yeah,
it's not just homeowners. Landlords are affected by that as well. So when we look at it's so frustrating right now because we were also hopeful a year ago, and we talked about ARPA funds and housing and how we might affect change, and we recognized our need for housing. And so just when we're getting ready to do something, building costs go up 50% and interest rates double. It's like, are you shitting me?
Speaking of that, and housing and where we're at right now, and my thought that there are so many available spaces up top on Main Street, so many places that could be made into even a condo-like situation where you sold an apartment that was a 4-bedroom above Main Street, and then you're down here with transportation and walkability, and maybe then a grocery store would want to come here because there's people here, and other things want to come here because there's people here.
Sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of the owners of the buildings are saying, but we don't want to be a landlord because we're so unprotected. And is there really anything that a city can do to help them in a way so that they do want to be here, or is that all state level?
Pretty much at a state. When you refer to land, what I hear often from landlords is, look, when I have a problem tenant, it takes me a long time to get them out, and a problem tenant doesn't just affect that one unit. We've been really fortunate over decades of being a landlord in Vermont. I think we've evicted someone once in 30 years. And we're fortunate because a lot of times our tenants are either people we know or other organizations that we're familiar with, where they have an employee with a need. Or, honestly, the favorite one is when it's a mom or dad who know Karen and I well, and they'll call and say, my son or daughter needs their first apartment. Can you help them out?
Sure.
And and we know the parents, and I just look at the young man or young lady and say, look, if we have an issue, you won't be dealing with me. You're going to be
Deal
dealing
with your
mom
and dad. Yeah.
and so we help them get their start. But I hear that often from landlords. But sometimes it's self-inflicted. Sometimes landlords really don't do their due diligence on tenants. Don't think about we have 2 apartments side by side that I can think of in particular. One tenant is a wonderful elderly lady who's been with us for years. And when we advertise that tenant, it's really important to Karen and I that that we get a tenant who's compatible with her, who's going to look after her a little bit.
Sure.
Yep.
So it's just, I don't know. For us, it's always worked, and it's a community thing. But I think we could affect some change. I think there are some small changes that could occur on the state level to give landlords a higher comfort and higher comfort level in terms of rehabilitating their buildings and converting them from what is largely unutilized or underutilized office space.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, more people are working from home. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's an entirely different subject. But as we reduce our need for office space, we've got to consider converting those spaces.
Yeah, because we have a huge need for housing.
Yeah, and downtown is a cool place to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. Couple flights of stairs and there's a bunch of restaurants, a bunch of pubs. There's stuff going on.
Yeah.
And you can catch a bus to the hospital and there's so many things that are walkable
or
and
Montpelier or
carpooling
whatever.
and anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really, really anxious to start. The council's been off for a month.
Yeah.
I've never experienced that before.
How's the TAN going for certain councilors?
The TAN?
Yeah, being that they've been off
They've been off.
for a month. I mean, Booton's not looking like he's really been hanging out on the beach much. But
I get my tan mowing the lawn. Seriously, that's my sunning time. When I mow lawns is when I generally get sun. I don't know. Most of the count, I honestly haven't paid attention to that. Now, thank you very much because it's stuck in my head. And next Tuesday when I go into the council, actually 2 weeks from Tuesday when I go into the council chambers, I'll be looking at to see if everyone has a tan.
Right, because no meeting until the 13th.
Thanks for that. Yeah. But I'm anxious to. I'm really anxious to start the ARPA discussions again, to start talking about housing. We've got some real challenges, and we've got to start working on those. And I'm anxious to start working on those.
How's our new city manager doing?
Nicholas
Yes.
is, first of all, I've had little interaction with him purposely, other than to say, look, if I can give you a hand with something, let me know. In terms of placing any demands on his time or getting into a real substantive conversation, I've avoided that right now because he's drinking from a fire hose.
Still, and will be for
well, of course he is.
a while.
I mean, holy crap.
Yeah, sure.
You're responsible for all of these employees. You've got to learn how things work, how the city works. I think he's going to do fine. I do. I mean, from what I've seen and the feedback that I've gotten from others, he listens. He understands that he doesn't know everything, that he's drinking from a fire hose, and when it's appropriate, he relies on the department heads. And one wonderful thing about Barre is if you look at our depth of service, how long people have run a department, we've got some real talent there, not just at the department head level, but even at the, employee level. They can figure it out on their own. They just need to be led.
And right now, it sounds like he's working with them one-on-one for budget purposes.
Yes.
And that's a huge...
Yeah, so he's, I think he's going to do just fine.
All right. We're hoping still to get him in here, and we will. Over at the Reynolds House, you just recently hosted a reception for Peter Welch.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Great time. Raylene came.
Yeah.
We had a great crowd.
It was nice.
It's interesting how politics work. There was a Democrat who was upset because, I've known the congressman for years, and you've seen my posts on social media when he's stopping through Barre. We have lunch and we talk about, And we talk about a lot of things. We talk about the economy. We talk about Barry. We talk about challenges. But we've always had this genuine friendship. And he is just a likable guy. And one thing about Peter Welch is even if you don't agree on an issue, he'll listen.
Yeah.
He'll listen to what your concerns are. So when he called back in June, I guess his campaign called and said, "Hey, would you and Karen be interested in hosting an event?" Of course we would. And so we set a date for August 24th at that time. And actually, it wasn't his campaign who called; it was him who called. And he started out by joking, "Well, I need to have you start the first chapter of Republicans for Welch." And I'm like, "Well, that ain't going to happen, but I'll host an event for you." And so it was a great event. But there, unfortunately, I don't know why politics has to enter into everything.
Right.
There were certain Democrats in the city who were upset with the congressman,
Yeah.
because his first trip to the city of Barrie for a fundraising event was hosted by a Republican.
Sure.
Even though I made it very clear to his campaign, I'm going to present you, my invitees. It will be a very diverse group.
Right.
It'll be a lot of executive directors of Capstone, of Central Vermont Council on Aging.
Sure.
It will be a very diverse group, and my group will likely have people in a position of leadership, people who are running organizations that benefit Central Vermont, and it did, and it also had had a few Democrats on it, had a lot of Republicans on it. And so apparently some Democrats in Barrie took issue with that.
Yeah.
But I had told the campaign, look, if you want to reach out to, certain people and invite them, feel free,
You
But it was a fun event.
Yeah, you told
Yeah.
everybody that. pretty
Free
much.
beer,
It was
free
an-
wine, free food. That always sets the stage for a successful event.
It was
And,
very nice.
Yeah, he had a ball. He stayed a little later than he intended, but
Good.
so
Good.
yeah.
I think
And
it's
we'll do
great.
another one for Phil Scott in September.
And we even got pictures of Michael Booten
Yeah.
with Peter Welch.
Well, of
That's-
course you did.
that's
He-
great.
Peter Welch is a likable guy. If we
I'm
had
saving them for the day that I need them, but
Yeah.
if we had more people like Peter Welch in the Senate and in Congress, we would get a lot more done. Because he understands, and if you read up on his history and how he over the years, and not just when he was in the State House in Montpelier,
Right.
how he treated Republicans. He made sure
Yeah.
that Republicans not only sat on influential committees, but he made sure that they chaired influential committees.
Yes.
And always made sure that everyone was represented at the table.
Yeah.
He's got his core beliefs. I have mine. And, like I said earlier with the Mayor's Coalition, both of us are smart enough to recognize that we're never going to run out of problems to solve.
Yeah.
We're never going to run out of things. We're never going to run out of issues around drug addiction, around
Right.
poverty, around equity. We're never going to run out of those issues that
Yep.
we can pull together on, agree on, and affect change. And in those areas where we don't agree, we'll never have time to address those. So let's just get to work.
right, you
And
just have
that's
to
what he
agree to
believes.
meet in the middle sometimes. That's
So yeah, so I just as you know, JD, I mean, I've endorsed Democrats, I've endorsed Republicans,
I know you
I've
have.
endorsed independents. And that's the wonderful thing about being stubborn and independent.
Yeah.
If and the Republicans know if they don't like what I do, all they have to do is take me off their mailing list. I'm fine.
Right. I think you and I both, tend to giggle at folks that try to put each of us in a box, politically or otherwise.
Yeah.
It's just give up.
It's bigoted.
Yeah.
You don't
Forget it. Don't even try.
I don't pretend to think that I know what you think
Yeah,
late
right.
at night.
Sure.
And, I don't pretend to think that I know exactly who you are.
Right.
I know a lot about you, and I admire a lot about you, and the same with you, Raylene, but I don't know everything about you, and I don't know how you think on every issue. So
Sure.
you don't put people in a box
Yeah.
because people, believe me, some of the people have surprised me
Yeah.
over the years
Oh,
when
yeah.
I've really needed help, and people who I thought would be least likely to help me helped or reached out.
Yep.
So, and if you alienate people, you're never going to have that chance. So, just how I think.
Do you have time to sit with us through some other content here this morning?
What kind of content?
Well, national.
We're not going to talk about flags and chickens and cats, shit like that, are we? Because I'm not staying for that. Look, I got my standards, Sonny.
this next space launch system rocket, Orion, whatever the heck they're calling it, is they're going to try to shoot it up on Saturday.
Okay.
They were hoping to reschedule for Friday, but they've been doing some testing, and they say they need another day to launch this thing unmanned to the moon.
Okay.
Do you think we went to the moon, Tom, 50 years ago? Do you think we
Do I think we went
Yeah,
to the moon?
did we step foot on the moon? Do you think we actually land, or was it a big conspiracy?
God, I remember my parents, went to bed. I was young. I remember going to bed, and then my parents waking me up. It was late.
Yeah.
I don't remember how late, but it was late. It was like way past my bedtime. And I remember my parents waking me up so that if I wanted to come down and watch our first steps on the moon, I could.
Buzz
So
Aldrin.
I'd hate to think that I lost
John
a good
Glenn.
night's sleep and over something
And
that
it
was
didn't
fake.
really happen.
Yeah. Right.
That one, what do you mean?
But
Do
apparently,
I think we went to the moon?
this is we're gonna touch down on Saturday.
Do we have any callers who are actually writing in saying we did not go to the moon? Those rocks came from Camel's Hump.
No, but I'm sure we will. I'm sure we
Me
will.
too.
My humble opinion is that yes, we landed on the moon.
So, Tom, just a yes or no question here. If it's going to be unmanned, if there was a person here on Earth is there a person here on Earth that you would love to put in this capsule and shoot up to the moon
Oh, boy.
and just drop them off permanently? Just yes. It's a yes or no. Yes.
No.
Yes or no. No.
No,
Oh, Tom.
no, because I have too much fun with them here on Earth. I'd miss it. I'd really miss it.
There you go.
About a month ago, a lottery ticket was sold for the second largest Mega Millions jackpot ever, $1.34 billion. And that massive prize has not been claimed yet. Mm-hmm. Here in Vermont, we just had that big one. Stepping forward as a trust.
Yes.
Smart.
Keep in mind, I'm on the board of liquor and lottery.
Yes.
As you.
I know you are.
So I may have. Yeah.
Do you know who won the 1.34 bill?
No.
All right. U.S.
But
government.
that's a lot of money. Far too much money for
Any one
person.
person.
But
United States government documents at Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump's most likely concealed and removed from a storage room as part of the effort to obstruct the FBI's investigation of Trump's potential mishandling of classified materials. This is the latest from the DOJ coming down last night. Mm-hmm. You got any thoughts on that?
no.
No.
Wasn't there. Don't have all the facts.
Mm-hmm.
No one has all the facts. There's a lot of people who like to jump to conclusions.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
just like when we
This
see
is
a
why we
picture of a
like this guy,
tragedy
you know.
sometimes, and
Sure.
I mean, I looked locally about, a wonderful family who lost their home. People immediately, and I've been on the receiving end of that with the Aldrich block, and people immediately, they burned it. It's just shut up.
I know.
Just just shut up and make a donation, help them out,
Right.
and wait to get all of the facts. And I wasn't always like that, but as you get older, you learn to just sit back, and because you've been
Shut up and watch.
you've looked like an idiot so many times
Yeah.
as
That's
I
what
have.
tell you, and I tell you that all
that
the time.
you learn to just sit back, and it's okay to have those thoughts. We all do.
Yeah.
But keep them to yourself
Right.
until you look a lot smarter that way.
Right.
If you keep them to yourself and wait until you get all the facts. So yeah, there's certainly a lot going on with the search of the former president's home and where those documents came from and what those documents even were. We don't even know that.
Sure. Right.
So so I'm just sort of sitting back and
Watch
waiting
them play.
for it all to play out. I mean, are you always concerned that government has in some way abused its authority? Well, of course, but I don't know that happened
Yeah.
yet.
Right.
I just don't know.
Did you hear that Mikhail Gorbachev died? 91 years old.
Yeah.
Leader of the Soviet Union and back in the mid-'80s there. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's one of the big stories trending this morning. Did you get out for the run? What you brung? Was Lozon in the field?
No, I don't get to. I had
Last Thursday?
my one brief moment of glory, and yeah, and that was, and I abused the privilege.
Yes.
And
Were you grounded?
And I have been banished.
Did you get grounded?
I didn't get grounded. I got grounded from Karen's car,
All right.
and we still have that car, by the way. It's
Labor
going to
Day.
be 20 years old next year. 20,000 miles on it. Yeah,
How many?
20,000
20,000 miles. That's
in
it.
a 20-year-old car. Yeah,
Jeez.
it's kind of a date car.
We have the 44th running of the Labor Day Classic coming up.
They've had some good
this
shows
Sunday.
up there, man.
Yeah, yeah, they
They
have.
have really had some good shows.
It's been
I'll
a
tell you,
great year at
Chris
Thunder Road.
and Pat.
Yeah.
Man, what a godsend. Because
Yeah.
that, there was just that moment in time where Tom and Ken really had to divest themselves
Sure.
of that. They had done it long enough. I mean, they didn't know the racing community a damn thing.
Yeah.
No.
They
That's
paid
true.
their debt like
That's right.
15 years ago. And man, what a partnership. Chris and Pat, they're just wow. Can't say enough about them, and I'm sure the racing community is as appreciative as most of us are that they
willing
stepped
to
up
put the
and
work in.
that they stepped up, took the risk.
There's a new
invested the
spectator
capital.
area for folks that can tailgate there. Folks with,
Yeah.
especially with those with disabilities that can get right up and close and
Yeah.
it's fantastic. And the lighting, everything.
And Chris is like, Chris is a very quiet man, and Pat is as well. They're always thinking. Believe me, they've got plenty going on, but they're not, they're just not ones to spew it. It's not how they roll. But what Chris has in common with Tom Curley, what really meant the most to him is that, he is obviously the fans meant a lot to him. But the competitors really meant a lot to Tom. And he wanted to make sure, it was his sort of mission to make sure that, the guy who worked 60 hours a week and then worked on his race car from 8 at night until midnight, couldn't afford the best equipment, hauled it to the track on an open trailer,
Right.
that guy
Got a
could
fair crack.
compete against the guy with the best equipment.
Sure.
And that was the way he ran the program.
Yeah.
And Chris, you see a lot of that in Chris. He the rules are the rules, but it's really important to Chris that, every guy who shows up at that track or girl who shows up at that track with a car has a chance to win.
Yeah,
And has a chance, chance to win. They may not, they'll be competitive. But
Five.
they'll always compete. They'll be top 5.
$5,000 to the winner this Sunday.
Yeah.
200
makes me want to
laps.
take the Porsche on or something.
They're all going to be running. Tiger, Street Stocks, Road Warriors.
You
All.
better hope you send her to Jamaica or something first.
Yeah, right.
She may not come back. I don't know.
Our farmers, being that it is Wednesday, our farmers market is this afternoon.
Have you stopped down?
I have.
We've
I
shot
have.
down a few
It's
times.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I love it. There's some real interesting vendors in there, and there's this. I can't remember the name of the farm, but he's got these beets that are like softballs, huge.
I want
Amazing.
an ice bar event.
An ice bar.
Ice bar.
Okay.
Well, not in August,
Yeah.
but I've always dreamed of having an ice bar. Karen and I were regulars up in Burlington at the ice bar
Yeah.
event. And yeah, wouldn't this little
Oh.
alleyway be an incredible
Yeah.
place to
You'd have to,
have
put this in front of the council. Why not?
I ain't going to put it in front of the council. I'm just going to do it. I've always wanted that. I've always wanted an ice bar event in Barrie. And now that we've got this wonderful pedestrian walkway, somewhat
What better
protected,
space?
what an awesome
Very much.
space to
Protected. Yeah.
yeah.
Great point.
And do it like they do it up in Burlington, where they have, all of the restaurants participate. They all have a little ice bar.
Yep.
And so they don't really want them to compete. So what they do is they say, look, present us. They only pour like 2 or 3 drinks. They have, some of them have a luge where they actually pour the drink in the top
I
of
love
the
that.
sculpture, and you watch your drink go down. And then it's really cool. So I really want to do that.
That would be
So yeah,
amazing.
I'm going to
would
talk
be
to our
really
area
cool.
restaurants and see, You know, how do we do? And it's all
That'd be
ice
awesome.
sculptures. And every time we would go to Burlington, and believe me, I'm nothing against Burlington, but I'd be like, what the hell are you guys doing with sculptures?
Yeah.
You know, Barre, Vermont is the sculpture capital of the world. We should have the sculptures. And I always thought about talking to some of our wonderful sculptors in the granite industry and say, hey, you know, you pound on this tough stone all day. How would you like to take a crack at ice?
Yeah. Scott McLaughlin would be interested in that.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
We can have the aired out,
We're in,
the
please.
2023 aired out ice bar.
Oh, my God. Done. Yes.
That'd be awesome.
See,
Do I need to start taking
what an
notes on this?
opportunity! What an opportunity! See, we come here to talk about Mikhail
God.
Gorbachev, and we end up talking about an ice bar in Barre, Vermont.
And then tomorrow, food,
ADHD, sorry.
that's all right. Food trucks in Courier Park tomorrow with the live music. This is continuing. The Barre Partnership has got a full schedule right through September. It's going to be amazing. And if you haven't been yet to Courier Park on a Thursday, make tomorrow part of your plan.
Absolutely.
Be there. It's a good.
And the
time.
kids are back in school.
Yes.
Yes.
All the moms
Yes.
are all drunk in the streets. Okay, they're not. The dads are.
Very true. This.
But you know what? I love seeing the pictures. You know, I can still remember the first day that that Alex and Miranda went to school. First time we ever put them on. I can still remember the first time what that felt like, and how they felt. Anxious, but anxious. A little apprehensive, but really anxious, and anxious to get out there and make new friends.
Right.
And they did. So I love on social media when I see those pictures of the moms and dads putting their kids on the bus, those first day of school pictures. And we took those, we made the kids, they took pictures right up through grad school.
Yeah.
We made them,
that.
snap a photo, and when they were in the house, like
Yeah.
through high school, Karen would take them. But even as they went through college and then grad school, we'd like, no, first day of school, take a
Yeah.
picture.
Right. Oh yeah.
And they
Oh, yeah.
did. They always humored us.
Same here, and I still get a couple of tears.
Well, of course you do.
Yeah.
Because you spend your whole life protecting your kids, and now it's like the world sucks. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
And I'm gonna send them out there, and I won't be standing. I get it, and I won't be standing. But you gotta let them. You gotta let them make their own mistakes and have their own experiences. And if you do a good job, they'll be okay.
Yeah. Natural consequences is something that we're very much engaged with right now at our house.
How's that going?
Not so well.
Oh,
So,
dude,
yeah,
she's
buckle
not.
up.
She hasn't hit the teen
I
years
know.
yet.
Yeah.
Because listen, I love the young lady my daughter has become. Miranda's the national operations coordinator for No Kid Hungry, and she's based actually out of Denver. And I am so proud of her and the young lady she's become. And Alex, who actually just accepted a job at the medical center, so he's going to be working in the lab up there. And I'm so proud of them. But I got to tell you, when they hit 13, it's hard. It's hard with young
There's
ladies
your
because
warning.
it's all about the drama. There is drama. There is nonstop, 24/7, 365 drama.
We got it now, Tom. At age 7, we
It
have it now.
No, it gets worse. It gets
How could
Really?
it possibly?
Oh,
How could it be worse?
I could tell you, but you wouldn't believe me. So there's some things like it's like childbirth. Okay, you can try to explain how you feel when your child is born.
Yeah.
and how it's like
Yeah, sure.
how I can have this little human being that I just met, and how I can love them so much, and it's like I've loved them my whole life, and
Yeah.
I can explain that, but you won't get it until you got to do it.
Yeah.
And that's when you get it. So I could explain the drama, the 13-year-old drama,
Yeah.
to you. And all the moms who are listening right now, they're all nodding their heads saying, all the moms and dads are like, oh, yeah.
Well,
they get it.
I may end up shaving my head, and you might see one eyeball looking
won't
one
help.
direction. And
It won't help.
Yeah.
It won't
officially
help.
been warned.
Nothing helps.
That's all you
Nothing
get.
helps.
The
But
official
let me tell
warning.
you the good news for those moms and dads who are going through it, and for you who will go through it. It gets a lot better.
Okay.
It gets a lot better. It lasts through the high school years, and then somewhere around like 19, 20, they come back. And all of a sudden, you're the greatest thing in their life again. You know, it just takes a while. It's sort of like, you know, they go on this drama sabbatical.
Well, drama sabbatical. I tried to give her a kiss on the first day. Come on, Dad, really? I'm like, what? Huh?
Really? No, we always got.
That killed me.
I no. Miranda was always in terms of giving her a kiss and saying I love you, because I've always done that with the kids. But I remember not too many days into kindergarten, like the first week or so, Karen and I got away with giving Alex a hug and a kiss. Bus would come at the end of the driveway, and then on this one day, I arms went out. I kind of leaned in, and he leaned back like this, and he stuck his hand out.
For a handshake?
And he shook.
Oh my God!
And he shook
Handshake.
and he shook my hand, and I thought I was going to cry, and. Yeah, but
Well,
you
that's
know
what
what? It
happened
was
to
all
me.
part of the process. He was growing up, and at that point in time, it's like, okay, was it? So when he came home, we had a little chat about it, and I said, I'm sorry if I embarrassed you, but I said, so handshake, high five, whatever you want to do, bud. Hug, whatever you want to do. But no, I'll respect the boundary. But no, every time I do this, it's I love you.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Wow.
So we did that, and now and it's wonderful because now I don't say goodbye to him without giving him a hug and kissing him on the cheek and telling him I love him.
Yeah.
And the same with Miranda. So it's all good. It's process.
Oh yeah.
It's like the city council. It's all a process. Got to have that drama sabbatical.
But Tom, you had a dress rehearsal. I have no dress rehearsal. This is one and done for this old guy here. So
What do
I'm just
well,
saying.
no,
Just
no,
one.
no, because
have one of each.
young men and young ladies are different.
Yeah.
In terms of they're different. They think differently. They react to things. So no, and we're all individuals. So I mean, I could have had 5 daughters, and I'm sure they would have all they're different. They're
Sure.
individuals. So
Sure.
so no, there's no dress rehearsal, my friend.
Yeah.
You just gotta roll with it.
Today is the final day of the month of August, Drug Overdose Awareness Month. And Raylene and I are always promoting Jenna's Promise and the Jenna's House Community Center that they're building up in Johnson and all the great things that they're doing. But tonight, Aired Out is going to be live at Lyman Point Park in White River Junction for the Overdose Vigil, Raylene.
Yes, we will be there
6:30.
and live, and you still have time if you want to add somebody's name. Please message me. I'll make sure it gets there. And then, speaking of Jenna's Promise, they've teamed up with the Red Sox.
Yes, I
And
saw that on
if you
Facebook.
buy tickets right now to go to a home game or a game here, then $9 for each ticket will go to Jenna's. So pretty awesome.
Great. Good stuff.
Tragic story.
Yep.
Wonderful story. And proud of the work you're doing, and certainly proud of the work everyone is doing. It's, I thank God every day that it, didn't directly, it has affected my family. It didn't affect Karen and my family directly. And I thank God every day because no one's above it. Drug addiction and that illness can affect anyone. And so thank you for the work that both of you are doing.
Thanks for coming on, Tom.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Raylene.
Have a good day.
We'll catch you again real soon right here on Aired Out, live from the ASB Financial Studios and Fly on the Wall Productions, Main Street, Barrie, Vermont.